Of all the mainstream social media platforms, the one I find the most disturbing is TikTok. Not only is it lowering the attention spans of young children down to a matter of seconds, there have also been the various TikTok challenges which have left mostly teenagers injured or even dead. There are thousands of people self-diagnosing themselves with mental health disorders which they clearly don't have, but by pretending to have those disorders they are in fact damaging their own mental health. And that's before we get to who owns the platform. The company which owns TikTok reports directly to the Chinese government, and they also pass on all of your personal information. Now, I'm far from being a conspiracy theorist, but if the Chinese were looking for a way in which in one generation they could soften up millions of people in the West, turning them into crying, snivelling, non-binary they-thems, they found the way to do it. And there's a new trend on TikTok involving the trans, queer, non-binary cult, because God forbid anything in the news isn't about them. It appears many of these people are catching religion. One specific religion. Islam. Who's going to tell them? I want to make clear that in this video I'm not trying to make fun of Muslims, because famously Islam cannot take a joke. But I will be going through some of the reasons I think that religion is appealing to certain members of the trans and non-binary community. Now, the person we're about to see is somewhat confusing. This is a biological woman who isn't transitioning to be a trans man. She identifies as non-binary but has had a double mastectomy and is taking testosterone to change her voice and allow her to grow facial hair, which, to be frank, a 13-year-old boy would be ashamed of.
Just started reading the Quran and I am so excited about it. People thought when I first asked that I just wanted to read it out of curiosity, but I want to read it to study it. I started following somebody on social media that teaches the Quran and hosts a Quran book club for Muslims and non-Muslims, so I'm really excited to start going to that. She was describing the chapter of the bee and that just blew my mind. Like, the way that she describes things and the way that the Quran describes things actually makes sense to me. And also, did you know that Allah is beyond gender? Did you know that actually scholars believe that there are two Qurans, the Quran of nature and the Quran, the actual book? And did you know that each chapter is named after a natural phenomenon? I don't know, this whole book is just blowing my mind and I am so excited. I got sticky notes so that I could mark out things that I was drawn to, and I'm not even through the first chapter and I already have a bunch of sticky notes. I'm definitely going to have to buy more tabs. I'm honestly having a whole revolution with myself where the way that I describe the universe and the things that I believe in are actually described in the Quran of believing in Allah. And I've never thought that I believed in God before, and now I'm really having a revolution of self of, I think I actually believe in God.
So if people are becoming religious, why not pick Christianity? That is the main religion across the Western world. I think that's the issue, because since the times of the Vikings, Christians haven't played the victim card. And I note, this has only happened on TikTok since the war between Israel and Hamas has kicked off. And I think members of the trans and non-binary community are trying to feel victims and looking at the Palestinians, and many, many innocent Palestinians are being caught in the crossfire, and they're trying to find common ground. But the issue is, Israel is responding to Hamas, a known terrorist group. Israel's argument is essentially they want the right to exist. The selfish bastards. And of course, anti-Semitism is rife within the woke far left, because the far left and the far right are different sides of the same bloody coin. So, by saying, well, look what the Jews are doing to the poor Muslims, it justifies that hatred, because being woke is mostly based on hating other people. Now, the former porn star, Mia Khalifa, famously received death threats when she recorded a porn scene wearing a hijab. Recently, she's also been sacked from her job as a television presenter for openly supporting Hamas. So, not only was she fucked on the screen, she's also fucked in the head. So now we'll see a young chap who's already a Muslim. How are the same Islamists going to react to this clip?
Okay, this is the last time I'm addressing this. I did not burn or steal my mom's hijabs. They're in her room. And she has a tiyab salah like this to pray in. And you guys took that video way too seriously. Like, I love my mom. I would never do that to her. So she's leaving the house, babe. She has hundreds of hijabs to wear. Thank you very much. Love you.
I believe that's called signing your own death warrant. And the real irony of the situation is the only country in the Middle East where someone can be trans, non-binary, or even just openly gay is Israel. In Palestine, just being homosexual will get you arrested, tortured, or even killed. And although many trans and non-binary people are standing in solidarity with the Palestinians, that solidarity isn't being reciprocated.
Palestine is unacceptable. It's very unacceptable. We don't like that and we are against it.
Why? But why?
Against the Islam and the traditions and customs.
That's just one of many clips currently circulating on X. And some people may say, but that's the Middle East, it's different. And to an extent, I agree. I think Muslims living in the West are actually similar to most trans people, in as much as they're just trying to live their lives. But both communities have real bad apples, and they simply don't police themselves. And there can't be any criticism for the same reason. Criticising Islam is Islamophobia in the same way that questioning gender ideology labels you a bigot and a transphobe. To illustrate the point, around 5 or 6 weeks ago there was a story which wasn't widely reported here in the UK, and I'm going to be especially vague for my own safety. You see, in the UK, all mosques are registered as charities, so they pay no tax, nor do they contribute anything financially to wider society. And Birmingham City Council recently went bankrupt. The council went under. But before they did so, they gave £2.2 million to one mosque in Birmingham. It then emerged what the imam has actually been preaching. Among other topics, he gave clear instruction on how women should be stoned to death, how adulterers should be beheaded, how unmarried adulterers, which I believe in the Western world we call single people, should be tied up and whipped. Some people will pay good money for that. And also the reasons why all members of the LGBTQIA+ community should be put to death. If you're watching this video and you're a trans or non-binary person thinking of converting to Islam, you are backing the wrong fucking horse. Or maybe not. There are several similarities between fundamentalist Islam and gender ideology. The term cisgendered, which is bandied about all the time by those who follow gender ideology, was coined by a German sexologist who advocated for paedophilia. And the Prophet Muhammad's youngest wife Aisha was only 6 years old when he married her, but he waited until she was 9 years old until he fucked her. Can a 9-year-old girl consent to sex with a man in his early 50s? Both ideologies advocate chopping off healthy body parts. Within the trans community, it's usually the breasts of severely autistic teenage girls who've been misdiagnosed. And within fundamentalist Islam, it's hands and heads. It's much harder to come back from that procedure. And both ideologies, the big one, they openly hate women. In most Islamic countries, women have no rights whatsoever. And as we're seeing in the Western world, the more aggressive aspects of the trans movement are trying to erase women from the English language and stamp out all the rights they've gained since the suffragette movement. Another thing which members of the TQ cult and followers of fundamentalist Islam have in common is if anyone criticises them, they're out in the streets screaming and rioting. So who knows, maybe it'll all work out for the best. As ever, thanks for watching.